All right. Good morning. It was morning here, so whenever you look at it, I'm sure maybe whatever time. But anyway, we got a nice show today. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Creative Genius. So today is a special guest for us because she's kind of different from the I want to say normal, but kind of different from the regular artists that we've had on before. Um, although she is in the realm, well, she's an artist. I would say she doesn't have a background in fashion design. That's something we'll talk about. But today we focus even more on the business portion of being an artist, and that's what creative genius. I'm sorry, is about as well. So just don't focus on artists. We also focus on the business portion of becoming an artist, entrepreneur, if you will. And so today's guest, she helps artists all the time, is her job. She is an attorney for entertainment and also intellectual property. And I thought it would be a great idea to welcome Miss Elana Faniel onto the Creative Genius platform and just talk about intellectual property, talk about what that is, talk about why that's so important as an artist and creating your brand as an artist. And so today we're going to dive in just a little bit into some intellectual property and the law side of protecting your work as an artist. And so welcome to Creative Genius. How are
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
you? Oh, it's no problem, no problem.
Thanks for that introduction. But yes, I do have a background in fashion design. I guess I don't have your typical background. I wasn't in college. I felt like I wanted to do two things at once. So I wanted to do
Right.
fashion design. Knew I wanted to go to law school, and so learned in law school that I could combine my two interests, my creative side as well as the legal side or the more
Right.
analytical side. And so intellectual property was that practice area that really fit and kind of married my two interests. So as you said, I help creatives. That's the bulk of what I do. So I assist them with not only, we're going to be talking about intellectual property today, but not only with protecting their intellectual property, but also in assisting and reviewing contracts, drafting contracts, things of that nature that come into play when you're running your own business. So I do a lot of that as well. So thank you for having me, and I'm here to answer any questions that you
Cool.
have.
Cool. Let's start out the beginning. Where you from?
Well, I was raised in Tampa, Florida, but I'm a
Okay.
military brat. So I was born in Germany, and we moved around a bit and kind of settled in Tampa. So I was raised in Tampa, Florida.
Got you. Okay. What high school?
I went to Hillsborough.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. And after so when you were in high school, did you have an interest of being a
Oh,
fashion
give me
designer?
1 second, Aaron.
Okay. Okay.
My oh boy, something happened with my. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Something happened with my sound here. Oh boy. Okay, can you hear me now?
I can. Loud and clear.
Okay.
Can you hear
Great.
me?
Something happened. I apologize.
Oh, it's all good.
All right. I'm sorry. What was the last thing you said?
I said, did you have that interest of being a fashion designer while you were you in high school?
I did actually. I was so I used to do a lot of um what is it called? Kind of designing jeans at that time, ripping them up and shredding them and putting rhinestones and things like that was
Right,
pretty popular then. So I did a
right,
lot of that and actually did some of that for my friends. I was able to select an elective and I selected art because I felt like it was, it would fuel my interest
right,
for, fashion design. So yeah, I've always had an interest in it. And so I actually majored in it in fashion design at Florida State. I don't think they have that program anymore, but
right.
went to Florida State and got that's where I learned how to sew.
At Florida State?
Yeah, they had a
Oh,
design program, and
mhm.
they taught you everything. So that's where I really got the skill as far as putting a garment together. So
Right,
yeah,
right. So I know you're probably pretty busy as an attorney. Where's fashion design in your list of priorities now?
it's at the bottom of the it's at the
At the-
bottom of the totem pole. Unfortunately, it maybe in the near future I'll probably jump back in it,
Right,
because I'm always, it's always it never has stopped being an interest of mine or a passion of mine. So
right,
I'll probably end up jumping back in the near future.
right. Now, at one point in time, well, not one point in time, but when we first had our first conversation, you was telling me that fashion is is a pretty expensive skill. Talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so I consider myself a little rebel. I go the path,
Not
you know,
you.
travels. So when I got out of law school, I decided that I was going to actually start my fashion design company. Was working on putting together a collection, and it just, what I didn't realize, because I had the skill of creating, you know, uh, designs and actual clothing, but actually, building a business around that
Right,
is a whole different animal.
right,
So I found it, I was going around sourcing materials, sourcing fabric, sourcing zippers and buttons and things of that nature. And, it became expensive,
right,
and then at that time, it might have changed. It might be different now, but at that time, it was hard to find the fabrics that I wanted. It was hard to be able to purchase fabrics, and not have to pay for, a whole lot of fabric,
right,
and then taking that to a cut and sew, factory manufacturer, they're not going to just sew up, a couple of pieces, so it was, they may have more of these factories now that will, you can have small orders.
right,
But back then it was very difficult to find, and
right,
here in the United States, I would say. But
right,
that's changed. That was a while ago. So
right.
maybe the industry has changed.
Right, right, cool. All right. Well, just a little information about the fashion design industry. I thought that was
Yeah,
pretty neat for the audience. But now let's kind of transition into our way of actually talking about um, intellectual property. First of all, what is intellectual property?
yeah. Intellectual property. And, typically when you think about property, you think about, something that is tangible, something that you can feel, that you can see, and you think of land, right? You think of a
Right,
house. You think of that kind of thing when you think about, or personal property, you think of, things that you own, your jewelry, your clothing, whatnot, your car. That's all property. The intellectual property, the intellectual part really just means that it's intangible, it's something that stems from your brain. It's creative, so, way back when, the government understood that, just because it's not tangible property, that doesn't mean that is not something that should be protected and regulated. And so intellectual property is an area that protects ideas and creative work and invention. Well, let me not say ideas, but in essence, it protects those things that kind of stem from, kind of the creative side of your brain and innovation, and that kind of thing. So that's really, it's intangible. It's not something that sometimes you can touch and feel it depending on what it is, but it's property. So it has value. It's property, but it's not something that is tangible, like, land or,
So,
a house.
so in terms of a creative or artist, can you kind of give an example of what a piece of intellectual property would be in terms of art?
Sure. So, there's different types of, art. And so that's kind of a broad, area, broad category. But I would say for, as we define the word creative, a creative, I would say, copyright law, or a copyright, which is a type of intellectual property, is something that creatives will come across more often than not. And so copyright, is the protection of creative work. Okay. And so copyright is not a thing that is only created once, you file an application with the U.S. Copyright Office. A copyright is created once that particular, what we call work, once that work is created. So if you're writing a book, if you are a graphic designer, if you are a musician, or you're a songwriter or whatnot, as soon as you put that particular work in a tangible form, if you're a graphic artist, you put it, or you create it on, what is it, like some software that you're using to create it. Once you put in that tangible, if you write songs, you actually write it on a piece of paper. If you're, an author, you're actually putting the words on a page. As soon as you put it in a tangible form, you have a copyright. Okay, you have rights to it. As soon as you do that, as soon as it's created, you have rights to it. You don't have rights to ideas, so that's why you have to put it in a tangible form that can be protected. You don't have rights to ideas. So if you have an idea for a book, if you have an idea for a song, if you have an idea for a design, or whatever the case may be, you can't protect that idea. You have to put it in a tangible form. So that's why it's you don't always want to share your ideas. You want to share them, but you don't want to share your ideas if you're thinking that someone might take that idea and run with it. You want to keep it within a tight circle, and probably have people sign what's called non-disclosure agreements, if you're sharing ideas. But once you put that idea in a tangible form, you have a copyright. Now, the thing with copyright law is you can't sue anybody for copying that work that you created. You cannot sue anybody for copying that until you register it with the U.S. Copyright Office. Okay.
Okay.
So it's kind of strange that, I'm saying you have rights to it as soon as you put it in tangible form, which you do, but you can't sue anyone until you register it with the U.S. Copyright Office. So it's very important for creatives to actually, know and learn, if they don't know, learn how to register their work with the U.S. Copyright Office. It is a pretty inexpensive process. And so, depending upon, the types of work that you're creating, you want to learn how to register with the Copyright Office. So if you see someone on Instagram, you see someone on Facebook, you see someone, down the street who is copying your work, you're able to get with someone like me or another attorney and say, listen, this person is doing this. I need them to stop. At that point, my first question would be whether it's registered with the U.S., whether your works are registered with the U.S. Copyright Office. Right. Because that's the only way that we're really going to be able to enforce your rights to the work, is if it is.
So if it is registered, they have registered with the Copyright Office, what would that look like? What would be the next step? Say they see their work on Instagram, and they're sharing it, another creative is sharing it as their own and not giving credit. What is the next step? What do you do?
The next step, there's a couple of things that you can do, so Instagram, Facebook, Etsy, all these, online retailers, websites, social media platforms, a lot of them now have ways in which you can report what's called infringement. You can report that, and essentially what you're reporting and what you're filing is a takedown notice. It's called a takedown notice.
Right.
So you're essentially telling Facebook, Instagram, whoever, Etsy, whomever it is, that you have rights to this particular work and you have seen that they've been copying the work. And so once you submit that, they will, if you give them proof that you are the rightful owner of that, provide copyright registration information, they will take it down immediately. Right. They'll take it down. So that's one way of doing it. Another way is, getting with someone like me and having them send a cease and desist letter.
Cease and desist.
Cease and desist letter, which says, you've got rights to this. Cease and desist. Take it down right now, or we'll move forward with legal action, which is that lawsuit. So, there's a couple ways to do it. But what I've seen more of now is online, right? So you see it's so easy to share things. It's so easy to kind of tweak things. And so people are using other people's works all the time. And the thing is, once you get that registration, that's not it, right? Like you as the owner, the author of that work, you have to enforce it, right? So the U.S. Copyright Office is not coming in and saying, somebody's copying your work. They don't care. They gave you the registration. They say, be done with it. You do what you will with it.
Right.
It's your job to enforce it. It's your job to be looking out for copiers, looking out for potential infringers. So once you do see it, act on it.
Mm-hmm. Now, this kind of a two-part follow-up. So what was the difference between a trademark and a copyright? Well, what's the difference?
Sure. So copyright, again, protects what they call literary artistic work, so creative work. Okay. And that's a broad category. I mean, creative works, there's so many different kinds.
Right.
But trademarks protect slogans, they protect logos, they protect brand names that identify the source of goods or services. So when I say identify the source, what that means is you look at this particular brand name, you see this slogan, you see this logo, and you automatically know that company sells, I don't know, like Target, that company, sells all kinds of products. I see the McDonald's logo and I know they sell French fries, right? So it has to identify a source. That doesn't mean be popular like those two brand names, but it has to signify a source, right? So the difference, and I'm saying this because I've seen a lot of people who want to trademark, slogans that they've, come up with, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
You can't file a trademark application for that unless you are using that slogan to sell a product or a service.
Mm-hmm.
You can't come up with a slogan. You can't just come up with a design and want to keep other people from using it and say, let me file a trademark application. No, it needs to be used in connection with a product or a service.
Right.
So it's very different from copyright, where copyright is protecting an actual creative work. And trademark is protecting brand names and slogans and logos.
Right. Mm-hmm. Now, how what's the word I'm looking for? How strict are copyrights as far as, so say like I have a song that I heard. I changed up the melody, changed up a couple words, and I put it out as my own. Is that a violation, a copyrights violation? How strict are copyrights?
Yeah, I mean, so so with your scenario, I mean, you're admitting that you heard this song and you just changed some things. So when it comes into court, and so what a court is essentially doing is comparing the two works. Okay, how similar are these two works? I think they're going to be able to tell that you kind of just changed a little couple of things and then made it your own. They would have to, show that you had access to the song, which you probably did, if you downloaded off YouTube or online somewhere. So yes, that scenario would probably still be infringement. It would be. Now, sometimes people create works that sound alike, but they were created independently, and so that is a different story. And what you can do, if you just want to work from a particular song that's already created, what you would have to do is get a license from that, I mean, music is a little complex, but from the owner of that recording, and get a license from them to use it, and then put your own spin on it, so that you're protecting yourself, so that you don't end up in court fighting over whether this melody sounds the same as this, or whether these three notes sound like those three notes. So it's best to start off on the right foot and get a license. Like if you're wanting to sample music, for instance, you want to get a license.
Right. I mean, that was scenario. I mean, it's actually a real scenario. Because I don't know, Robin Thicke and Pharrell.
It happens all the time. It happens all the time. On that level, I don't know why they didn't go and get permission from Marvin Gaye's estate. I don't know why they didn't. That was just a real big mistake on their end. But
you think so?
I think so. Absolutely. As soon as you hear the song, you can hear the I forget what song, Give It Up or something. I can't remember.
That was it. Yeah.
As soon as you hear it, I know. That's a Marvin
Well,
song.
That was so. I brought that situation up because it's the actual scenario. And it ended up happening, and Pharrell was found in violation of copyright violation. So So commonly, what kind of creatives or artists do you routinely work with, that you come in contact with, that you actually perform some type of legal service for?
Yeah, I would say routinely, it's more of recording artists that I routinely work with. So those who are going the independent route, That I would say the majority of the type of artists that I work with. But I've worked with those, recording artists. I've worked with musicians. I've worked with, record label startups. I've worked with music producers. And I've worked with photographers and graphic designers and, people who paint and, so it kind of, I've gotten to be able to work with a lot of different kinds of artists. So it's really nice too, because, it's not the same thing,
Right.
all the time. So
Right. Right.
I like working with different types of artists.
Right. Right. Is there a kind of service that the majority kind of seek you out for, or is it kind of different things? It varies from artist to artist.
Yeah, it will definitely vary, but like I said, copyright is one of the biggest areas in which affect, artists in general.
Right.
So,
Right.
a lot of what I'm doing is, first, I'm kind of educating on the importance of copyright protection and how they can go about doing that, how they can go about protecting their works. And so that's the first step. And then we move forward with, if, that's my recommendation, is to actually register their work. And then, we put together contracts and things that will help them monetize their work. So, for instance, well, with recording artists and musicians and things, or let's say a music producer. If I have a music producer, then of course, first we're going to want to protect that particular song that they produced, the instrumental. And then, they want to be able to sell it for other people to use, or they want to license it. Now a big thing is people wanting to lease it, which is strange concept to me, but they want to do it. So, so putting together those types of agreements is the next step. So that's, there's a written agreement in place, so that if something happens, you've got that written agreement in place, and you don't want to be reactive. You want to be proactive.
Right.
You don't want to call me after something has hit the fan. You want to call me before, so that we can make sure we have everything in order while you're going in and doing these deals with this person or that person, or selling this to that person, or licensing and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
Right. Now you said you help put together contracts that help them monetize. So for an artist who's just starting out, who may not understand that concept, can you kind of break that down a little bit further? Like what do you mean when you say you help them monetize?
Sure. I mean, really, it's like, the question is, do you want to make money off of the work that you're creating?
Right.
And so if this is just a side hobby, then you don't have to worry about anything that I'm talking about. If it's a side hobby. If it's something that you're wanting to build a business on, and it's something that you're wanting to make money off of and sustain yourself from, then you have to learn how to monetize it. You have to learn how to protect yourself in order to monetize it.
Right.
And so, that could mean many things. And depending upon the type of work, there's different ways in which you can monetize it. A lot of times it's giving someone a license. It's giving someone, say, if you are, well, it's clear, if you're a graphic designer, you probably want to have people beating down your door for you to, create logos for them, or create different, I don't know, it could be marketing materials, or whatever you're doing. And you want to be able to have a contract in place that says, this is how much I'm being paid to do this. And whether you're giving them the right, they hired you to do a particular job, and then they will be the owner of this particular logo, for instance. For that example, the person who paid you will be the owner of this logo, okay, that you created for them. You want to make sure you have some sort of agreement in place for everything that you're doing. Because for this example that I'm giving about the graphic designer and the logo, you as a graphic designer, you created this logo.
Right.
You're the owner of it.
Right.
Okay? Just because they hired you to do it doesn't mean they own it. That's
Right.
not how that works.
That's a good distinction. Thank you.
That's a whole other concept.
Yeah.
People
Thank you for
say
that
work for
distinction.
hire.
Yeah.
I hear that term work for hire, and they say, well, I hired them to do it. That means I own it. That is not how that works.
Right.
You have to actually transfer the rights that you have to it to that other person. And you decide whether you want to do that or not. With logos, I would say you want to do that for your clients. You want to make sure that they own it.
Right.
But, for other things, like photographers, for instance, they don't transfer, most of them don't transfer rights to the photos to the person who hired them to take the pictures. The photographer retains those rights to those photographs so that they can use it for whatever. They can use it for their portfolio. They can use it on their website. They can do whatever they want with it.
Right.
So it really depends on the work that you're doing, but monetizing is just finding ways in which to make money off of the work, but also protecting yourself as you're, finding those ways to make money off of the work that you create. And I always say this to my clients because a lot of them are starting up, they're just beginning. And I have to remind them, your work has value. Okay.
Absolutely.
Don't let someone devalue your work.
Right.
Okay. Just because you don't have 100,000, 300 million followers on Instagram, or you don't have, that doesn't mean that your work is not valuable.
Right.
Okay. And so you have to basically, it's like the same thing. Teach people how to treat you. You have to tell people how much your
You
work
do.
is worth.
You absolutely do.
Because they will say, I only want to pay you $50 for this. And no, not $50. My work, this is something that I labored over.
Right.
Or even if you didn't, because you've got that much skill, it doesn't matter. If it took you 2 minutes to do it. Your work has value. And so you have to make sure that you're charging people in proportion to that value, that's something that I definitely have to continuously remind them to do. Like, oh, well, so-and-so said I'll do this for the exposure. We ain't doing exposure. We're past that, okay? Especially if you've been doing this a couple of years, we're past the exposure.
If you have an attorney, you past that.
It's time to make money.
Right, especially if you have an attorney. It's time to make money.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I think this conversation is needed because this kind of gets you away from the thought process of being a starving artist. Because starving artists, they have not figured out the business aspect of how to make money off their own skill as an artist. So you getting with an attorney, who's skilled at first of all protecting your work, and then help you come up with contracts and helping you negotiate and helping you monetize off of what you create. It gets you away from that starving artist mentality, and this channel is about, because creatives are creatives. Like, they make the world go round. Without creatives, we don't have any music. All right, we don't have any sense of style. We don't have any fashion. We don't have any. Right, we don't have any. We don't have a culture. All right, we don't have a culture without creatives. All right, so there is an infinite level of finances that you can create for your own self. All right, you can do this for yourself. You don't have to have 10 10 people that work for you. You can actually make a pretty good, decent living for yourself, as long as you go down the route of knowing the business, and definitely have an attorney who can help you generate
and understanding too that you still have to spend money to make money.
Absolutely.
Some things you can do yourself, but some things you can't. and
Right.
learning those things, identifying those things you can do yourself, do them.
Right.
But those things that you cannot do yourself, hire somebody else to do it. Or if you're not ready to hire someone else to do it, work towards budget, create a budget to work towards hiring somebody else to do it. You
Right.
cannot do it all and build a sustainable business. You have to
Right.
have other people. But starting out, yeah, you're trying to learn how to do everything. But you don't want to be doing everything for a long period of time. You need to
Absolutely.
be able
Absolutely.
to you need to be able to delegate in order to build. So
And
um,
that's the thing that I see with creatives too. Like they stay in their own silos. Like they don't go outside of their own gifts. Like they want to be their own lawyer. They want to be their own marketer. They want to be their
yep,
own. They want to do everything themselves.
yeah,
You don't maximize your potential that way. All right,
that's right.
you have to formulate a team that can help you, get to your goals financially. All right,
That's right.
and hiring a good lawyer, is should be part of that team.
That's
All right,
right.
should be part of that team, and so that's why I think this conversation it needs to be had, and it definitely gets the audience in a mind frame where they're thinking about maximizing. You can't maximize if you're trying to do everything yourself. You
Yeah,
can't create and then do the business side too. It's just too much. Cool.
yeah.
And I think it's a great conversation just to at least start off with. I know
Sure.
it's a deep rabbit hole. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah,
Um,
there's a lot. I mean, because we just kind of touched on trademark and copyright, which like I said, copyright is that particular type of intellectual property that touches creatives more. Um, but there's some, as you're continuing to grow your business, there are other types that come into play. Trademarks come into play if you have a brand name and that kind of thing, logo, as you're building your business.
right.
But you have, trade secret. If you are, a chef, and you came up with this bomb recipe
Hmm.
for, I don't know, making
Ribs.
sweet potato pie or ribs or
Right.
something, that is protected under, trade secret because, fortunately we can't protect, recipes under copyright law. Even if it's written down, they don't protect recipes. So, think of Coca-Cola. They have their recipe for Coca-Cola under wraps. Anyone who probably sees that recipe has to sign an in-depth non-disclosure agreement.
In depth.
They keep it under wraps because that is something that recipe is something that gives them a competitive advantage.
Right.
And so you have to, know what kinds of intellectual property kind of touch the type of work you're doing. So I would say for recipes, trade secret is going to be something that, you would want to know about and understand. For photographers and I would say even authors, um, illustrators, things like that, creatives like that, you want to also understand a different type of intellectual property called the right of publicity.
Oh, I never heard of that
And
one.
so, yeah, right of publicity is protection of a person's name or likeness, right? And so
Oh,
you cannot use a person's name, photo, likeness, whatever, for a commercial purpose, which means you're trying to make money off
money.
of it
Right.
without their permission. And so this is something that as a photographer, you would have to understand
Right.
the right of publicity.
Right.
How can I use this photograph that I took of this, and it includes this particular person? That's why a lot of times you have people who sign releases, right? Giving someone permission to use their likeness in a photograph or something like that, depending upon what they're using the photograph for. So
Right.
that's another type that photographers, that I see a lot, photographers need to have an understanding of the right of publicity.
Yeah. Photography, and that's an art that's slowly declining.
You think so? I don't think so at
You don't think
all.
so?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that, I mean, it, so I, it's in line with, photography and videography. I know videography is probably more popular now, but
Right.
I think it's a photograph speaks volumes, and it's still an artistic work, and there's
Right. Oh, it
still
is. Oh,
plenty
definitely
of
is.
photographers that have exhibits and shows and things in museums and all kinds of places. So I don't know if it's a lost art or if it's dying, but you still have photographs that are being used on,
True.
um,
True.
in the news. They're being
Right.
used in magazines and newspapers and all kind of print
That's okay. That's true.
material. So
That's a valid point.
there's still,
Valid point.
yes, it's changing,
Right.
but it's still relevant. It's still
Right.
relevant.
Right. Now you said something that now working with an attorney that helps you do is, and that is find a competitive advantage. Um, and I think a good attorney will help you create that competitive advantage because there are millions of music artists, visual artists, photographers, but that competitive advantage is what sets you apart from the others. And so, having your work, protected, where you can benefit from that competitive advantage, is going to be key. Cool. So,
Yeah, I would say on that point, I don't think we as attorneys are actually assisting in creating that competitive advantage. We are assisting in protecting
right,
that
right,
competitive advantage.
right,
I would say, the competitive advantage is created by the creator, the
right,
creative who's creating these works. And so, you know, that person has to think about what sets me apart, what sets the work that I create apart from others,
right,
right?
right,
And so in order to kind of, you know, show that, um, to the world, I would say a good, marketing, a good marketing and kind of PR strategy is
right,
what's going to really push
right,
and really create that competitive advantage in the marketplace.
right,
And we as attorneys would be helping you protect it so that as you're moving through the marketplace, that you're moving in such a way that you're, the work that you're creating is protected. But
right.
um, you can help kind of strategize, but really, I think it's going to be the marketing, and kind of PR strategy that really kind of
Right.
gets you there. Yeah.
Got you.
Hmm.
Okay. A lot of good information. I'm sure it's a lot to digest for others. Well, for some who may not even thought about this part of being a creator. But it is, like I said, it's a conversation that you definitely need to think about, especially if you want to, um, be an entrepreneur within the arts. So
That's
good.
right.
Now, Ms. Elana, and tell the audience how they can reach you if they're interested at taking part of your services.
Sure. So you can reach me, office number 813-607-6060, or you can just shoot me an email. It's Elana, my first name, Elana, at greenwayfirm.com. You can shoot me an email. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Greenway Law Firm. So you can contact me either of those ways, and we can move forward from there.
Right, right. And LinkedIn is not the best way. I just got lucky, so you definitely.
Well, yeah, I do respond on LinkedIn as well. So it's the same Elana, yeah, Elana Faniel on LinkedIn. So if you want to reach me there, you can feel free to reach me there as well.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Like I said, this is a deep rabbit hole, and maybe we can get together again and just touch on some other parts of intellectual property in the near future. I know I want to get with you about some other ideas I have, especially for my school, Rose Academy for the Creative Arts of Tampa, because there are some things that we're going to be putting in place where our students, um, you know, could possibly, take advantage of some of your services. So I definitely want to, stay in touch at least and have a conversation that route at a later time. But yeah, good
Sure.
conversation. Great conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
No problem. No problem. Anything you want to leave with the audience as far as some parting tips or advice separate from what you already
I mean, my parting words would be, just keep going,
right,
keep going, keep creating, but also have a plan,
right, right.
I think have a plan and have some deadlines as well. I think that as someone told me, a plan without deadlines is like, it's a dream. It's just a dream. So
Because
you
deep.
have to put certain you just
Because deep.
put some deadlines in there and give yourself, if you're really wanting to create a business from the things that you create, you're gonna have to have a plan. And I'm not talking about a formal business plan, but a plan that's written down that really goes through how you're going to market yourself and your business, because that's really going to be key. So yeah, but just keep going. It's not for the faint of heart. It's hard. It has its ups and
Mm-hmm.
downs.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, it has its ups and downs, but keep going, but be smart about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you. Like I said, thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy.
Sure,
I just
sure.
appreciate you just giving a little block of your time. Yeah, yeah, we'll be in touch.
All
And
right.
have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you.
All right, no
Thank
problem.
you.
Take care. All
Take
right.
care.
All right, bye.